Welcome to the latest episode of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. My name is Victor Lucia, founder and president of the Brooklyn Fishing Club. You can learn more about becoming a member at brooklynfishingclub.com. This includes all types of info on upcoming events, fishing trips, and more. We also have a sale on our clothing right now. Everything's 25% off. And by the time this probably airs, and maybe when you hear it, we'll have some new gear out. So tonight, I'm very happy to welcome one of our old guests back who was on the history of Sheepshead Bay, part 1 and 2, Captain Keith Apman. And he's got a couple friends with him tonight in the studio. Tonight, we're going to be talking about fishing for golden tilefish, deep dropping, and the different types of techniques and gear that goes into that endeavor. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Just waiting for you to do.
All right, back from a long hiatus, back in the studio for the first time since the pandemic hit. Hope everybody's doing well. All right, so how about we have everybody introduce themselves? So we got a big crew in the studio tonight. 3 captains. Are you captain too?
Technically,
we got 3 captains in the house. 3 Brooklyn captains. And tonight we're going to talk about something that was kind of like a lost art, right? Like Keith was telling me this type of fishing hasn't really been done since like the 70s.
Yeah.
Out of Sheepshead Bay, yeah.
Out of Sheepshead Bay. So let's, first of all, we're talking about golden tilefish, right? Tile fishing, deep dropping. So I forgot to ask you this on the phone, Keith, but why do you think it died out in the 70s?
Well, according to, Victor Becker, who I've been talking to about this recently, who owned the Tampa boats, who was one of the guys who started this in Sheepshead Bay. Basically, they got fished out. It was from 1972 up until 1975 was the years that they really started going out, about 3 days a week. And pretty much, basically, they went out and there was nothing left. These, according to him, they were just commercial guys just ripping up everything that was on the ocean
nets?
floor.
Just trawling it up and just throwing it? Or
So tilefish are primarily caught doing long lining on the bottom.
how the fuck do they long line that deep?
They have a steel cable.
And
You know,
so
that
did they
sets it
sink
down.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
How
they
deep
have
do
an
sink
anchor
that?
on the bottom.
They drop it all the way down and the
Yeah.
bait floats up?
No, they have an anchor on the one side
Okay.
and the steel cable for the main line.
Oh my God.
And my buddy out in Montauk who does it, they have a 4-foot section of, whatever mono they're using attached to a steel cable every 10 feet for 25 miles.
25 miles.
And
Holy
tilefish
shit.
don't move a lot. And they usually eat whatever in front of them. And they're very, very prone to overfishing.
So they could just line that thing up right on a strip of multiple rocks and
Yeah, anywhere, and they just
nuke the reef. It's
Yeah.
over.
it's,
So they stop fishing for it and they bounce back, and that
They stopped fishing for so they were bluefishing at the time, and the bluefish was so far to the south, past Barnegat. They had slower boats at the time, in that era, and they were just it was too much of a ride for them to really make it worth their while. So they were in touch with some commercial guys. They decided to get into this tile fishing. They advertised it. They got people interested. They were catching a lot of big fish. Kept going. It built up, and they stuck with it. They were making money out of it. So, I guess they liked it. The people liked it, and they kept going until it kind of died out, and then they went back to the inshore fishing. And they went back to the everyday, all day blue fishing. I guess some of the other guys did wreck fishing and whatever else they did. So since then, no one has really done this exclusively on a consistent basis. It's been here and there. Somebody makes a trip here, a trip there, out of Sheepshead Bay. And when Paul started doing this, we kind of built it up slowly but surely. We went out there, we poked around. We knew other guys were doing it. He worked on the Voyager. What was it? How long ago?
That was about 10 years ago, and that's pretty much what influenced me to do this. When I started on the Voyager, I thought like everyone else, before I started working there, I don't want to go tile fishing. 600 feet of water, it sucks. You don't want to reel that in. One day I actually went on a tile trip just to try it out. Gave it a shot. I was like, wow, this isn't bad. And it wasn't like the best trip. I only had a handful of fish.
Yeah.
It's fishing. You do get some slow days. So then, right before college, the summer before college, I asked.
Should just move the mic a little closer and let's peg that to edit that. Yeah. That's better. Yeah.
So right before I went to college, I asked Jeff for a job over the summer to work the tile trips, and he gave it to me. And that's where I really learned how, I used to pick his brain. Hey, how'd you start tile fishing? He told me the stories and how he's progressed, and I always kept that in my head. And, he took a liking to me and told me a couple of secrets here and there and what to do. And I learned how to fish for him, how they found, a lot of it was trial and error. Because again, he actually came from Sheepshead Bay. And the reason why he started tile fishing when he bought the boat in Jersey, his local business was terrible. And he had to figure out something else to do. And he said, no one's been tile fishing since like the 70s out here. The main tile fish boat was the Viking fleet out in Montauk.
Yeah.
So why don't we try to start that in Jersey? And he used to study charts of the Hudson Canyon and used to ask people, hey, where did you used to fish when you caught them in the 70s? And he used to, he slowly found them. And over the years, he explored other canyons, which we were just on the phone with Victor Becker. And he said that he started fishing all his old good spots, and they only caught one fish, and then he gave up. So if he explored more to the southern canyons or explored the canyon more, he could have kept that business going longer than a few years with the tile fishing.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the patience anymore because they were used to catching loads of fish. So in their head, they probably said, the tile fish are wiped out. That's it. And they just didn't look for them anymore.
That was it.
The bluefish came back and they started making money with the bluefish, and they didn't care much about it anymore. So, last year I experimented. I wanted to go tile fishing, I used to study charts of the Hudson, and I went there. We ended up doing good. First fish that came up was 30 pounds on my first tile fish trip,
Really?
I was like, yeah. I was like, well, this is either going to be a very good trip or a very bad trip. So
That's awesome. And it turned out well?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
What I love about this is that the similarity behind the stories here. You had the Victor Becker, back in the 70s doing this because the inshore fishing wasn't good, okay, and they needed to make money.
Yeah.
So what they do? They explored offshore, and they got a lot of people to pay a bigger fare to go off, which paid for compensated for the fuel and whatever else they had to do, and they made money that way. He just mentioned Jeff, who was on the Voyager, did the same exact thing. Inshore fishing wasn't that great, needed to explore something different. They went offshore into the ocean and explored, and they got people out of it.
Yeah.
Same exact thing right now. Inshore fishing in Sheepshead Bay, it's kind of on the downfall. It's not that great. We're only picking scraps of people here and there. You have good days, but now we go off and explore,
Yeah.
into the deep water, into the ocean, and we're getting people, which is awesome because it's bringing a spark, back to our port, which is our port's really on downfall, and Paulie doing this is bringing hopefully more new people and more fishing, more of a really good vibe, different fishing. So
Definitely. How many people are on these trips usually?
We're limited to 20 people.
20
so
people? That's pretty nice.
That's like an ultra limited trip compared to other boats.
And how big is the boat again?
It's 90 foot.
That's the Captain Dave in Sheepshead Bay, 90 feet.
So
20 people on 90 feet, a lot of room to fish.
Oh, there's
Keith
plenty
was
of
telling me you guys bring like food and you cook and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a good time. A lot of people think the boat is slow and we don't have a bunk room on the boat, this and that. It's not going to be comfortable, but you bring a beanbag like you would on your buddy's small boat.
Yeah.
A little air mattress or an air mat. You make it work. It's like a camping trip.
Yeah.
And you get a full night's sleep out of it.
It's an
Full night's
adventure.
sleep,
I
yeah.
did the Big Jamaica a few times for sea bass, like overnight. I had a lot of fun on those trips.
Yeah.
Do that like every December.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's like I said, it's like an overnight camping trip in the Atlantic.
Yeah, you wake up and the sun's coming up in the
it's
middle
cool.
of
It
nowhere.
really is. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the pictures that I take, and when you feel the sun coming up and everybody's getting ready and it's awesome because we're out in the deep, and
You don't know where you are. I remember one time on the Big Jamaica, I went out like east, and then one time we went south. And both times when I woke up, I had no idea where I was until I asked around a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we were off like Maryland. Went down by like
Maryland.
Oh,
right?
yeah, we went down by Maryland.
Nice. We were just down there.
Long trip.
Not
Is
too
that
far.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, we had a steam. It's it's,
Yeah. So how long of a steam is it from Sheepshead Bay to the fishing grounds?
So the Hudson Canyon, my fishing spots that I found so far are between 10 hours and 12 hours away from our dock.
Okay.
You know, people are going to say, oh man, that's a long time. Nah, you hang out on the ride out, you get make a couple of rigs, you have a few brewskis on the way out, you get a full night's sleep. Now you're ready to go in the morning.
Yeah.
You wake up at, the sun will come up at 5:30, 6 a.m. You smell the coffee, have a cup of coffee, bagel with butter or something, get ready.
Get into it.
Instead of leaving at the middle of the night, you're bored at 11 o'clock, you get on the boat, you finally maybe go to sleep at 1, then you start fishing at, you get back up at 5 or 6, and, you don't get a full night's sleep. It's almost nicer. You're not getting like, oh, should I sleep before the trip? And then you wake up in the middle of the night and you're groggy and miserable.
There's more than enough time to fall asleep and pass out.
It's kind of a
some
beautiful
waves.
thing more than anything.
It's really good, Vic, and I think a lot of people would really enjoy this fishing. It's something different. We're bringing something back to the city that hasn't been here in so long. People, and it's you got 2 big players that are doing it, and we're right in the middle. It's a great option for people who are living here who don't want to travel. It's a good solid boat. And the fish that are out there, it's something out of the National Geographic, like I was telling you, man.
Yeah.
The last trip, we must have had about, 4 or 5 makos breach the water. We had a lot of bluefish all over. They were chasing the bluefish. I mean, the
So
ocean
much
was alive.
life. It's like
This
a whole
is
different.
coming from a guy who's done this my whole life,
Yeah.
and I love it. You love seeing it. When you're out there, it's like, oh my God, whales,
You
dolphins,
get it again,
big
yeah.
fish.
We saw the whale sharks the last trip.
So you're saying no matter how
I mean,
jaded you are,
bait-
you could wake up on one of these trips and still
Dude,
love it.
It's just, it's all about this
Reminds
whole,
you
the
why
whole
you do it.
experience, man. And then we're going down to the bottom, and you're catching these nostalgic fish that you just don't. A lot of people still go tuna fishing, and it's all great. They're big fish, but these things, they're beautiful. They come up great colors. They fight like hell, and they taste
And they get
delicious. And they get big. When they get big,
Yeah, what was the biggest one on that last trip? Like 40
42.
something? 42?
yeah,
Yeah.
Some big ass fish to bring up from that deep.
What we did,
Oh, yeah.
and also what we did catch, we caught the blue line tilefish, and they were bigger than average. They were record fish. We found some great bottom down there, a couple of big goldens, and you see these fish. It's really exciting stuff to see these things. It's not your everyday fishing.
Yeah, and Paulie was saying the blue line fight harder.
Yeah. So it's almost like how a porgy fights.
Yeah.
They do the same thing except they're on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So it's almost like catching like a 10-pound porgy. or
Jumbo
something.
porgies.
Yeah, and they fight the whole way up. A lot of people again think, oh, tilefish, they only fight the first 50 feet and then they're dead.
Yeah.
That's not true. And Keith even noticed it. Like Keith said the same thing I did. Oh, I'm not gonna like tile fishing. He comes out on the first trip last year. It was supposed to be a tuna trip. It was slow for us, so I went tile fishing instead. And he goes down. He dropped down. He actually had fun.
Yeah.
A lot of people in their head they don't think it's fun because it doesn't sound fun, but it is. And I think one reason why people enjoy it, it's a combination of everyone's favorite type of fishing. They bite similar to a codfish.
Mm-hmm.
They fight when you first hook them. They're like a blackfish trying to get back into their rock.
They're digging.
And the fishing itself is like deep water fluking. So it's like
Oh,
everyone's
shit.
favorite fishing all in one.
Yeah.
It's just,
So
on a different level.
Did they do like what the group are doing, like blow out their
Embolize?
guts? Yeah, embolize. Yeah.
Yeah. The big goldens, you'll see them come up like submarines.
So what water level do you think they embolize? Like how deep? How many feet?
Depends on how fast you're reeling them up.
Yeah,
Right.
it depends on
That's a big varying. But
The guys who are hand crank, I did notice it doesn't happen as much. It's more with the electrics.
Because it's that change of pressure in the water column. that
the
fucks them up.
electrics are coming up a lot faster, a lot more consistent. You get a guy that's behind the reel, hand cranking. They're actually fighting the fish.
Yeah.
when the fish starts digging, you stop and
Yeah,
let
they
them
stop.
dig.
Do you
Electric
guys
reels, they
use
just keep
electric
going.
or no?
No.
I don't.
I like the hand crank.
Is it frowned upon?
No. It's
But
just
it's not.
No
it's
one
not
will
the
make fun of
same,
you.
though.
People try to make fun. I only hand crank. Why? Why? There's no reason to torture yourself.
Seeing these guys with these electric reels cause a lot of tangles, man.
Well, here's the thing. So if you get if an electric reel gets tangled up with a manual reel, the electric reel, they have to learn how to stop because now they're reeling up the tangle so much faster. The manual reel can't catch up, and all that slack is just getting wrapped around.
Dude, I saw some guy destroy the stern of the big Jamaica with an electric reel. I was casting out, but everybody else was dropping straight down. He took out everybody on the back.
They got to work
for about 25 minutes, and I was just pounding sea bass.
Yeah.
I had the whole bag to myself.
It's something that we were talking about, getting more on deck just to make sure everybody's more comfortable and making sure everybody works more together. It's like a really big thing. Just like you said, it's a perfect example of something that could happen. It could wipe out so many people.
Yeah.
Even just the sinker.
I mean, it was shoulder to shoulder. It was railed.
On the last trip, I used to work down south on a deep drop boat, and we basically just wouldn't let anybody use the cannonball sinkers.
And that was the first thing. I seen someone get tangled. I seen he had a cannonball sinker.
Just call them the cannonballs of death.
No.
And I actually gave him one of our sinkers on me just to make sure
get him out of the way.
Get him out of the way. You got to use the flat sinkers. The cannonball sinkers are terrible.
All they do is just they roll one way, take out those people, and then they'll roll the other way.
Oh my God, it's like a wrecking ball.
Oh yeah,
exactly what it is.
It's terrible.
Cannonball of death.
Yeah.
How long did it take to figure that out?
I spotted it pretty quick.
Yeah.
You notice like
you see what's coming up at the end of the tango
twice already.
That's crazy.
We don't want and for the new people, because that's what I really and I tell you this all the time. I know I'm repetitive with it, but what I love about the club is just it's bringing more people into the sport, and it's bringing more people into this industry, which I've always felt that we need more of all the time. And anybody who's listening, don't be intimidated by the fishing. It's really like Paulie said. It's a combination of what we all grew up doing inshore fishing. It's simple, and I can't stress it. Keep it basic. You're dragging bait on the bottom of the ocean. That's really what you're doing. You're feeling it by reeling up 400, 500 feet of line. Sounds like a lot. You got decent.
I mean,
it's not as bad as you think. And I tell you, I'll be the first one to be like, screw this, whatever. But
deepest I ever fished was like 300 feet.
If you did that, you could do Tilefish.
And I got a 27-pound grouper on spinning gear.
You could get a 40-pound Tilefish
that would be
for 100
insane.
more
That was
feet.
one of the toughest fights my whole life.
Oh,
my hands hurt for a full week. I never had that with any other fish in my life.
Where was that?
In Guatemala.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't want to reel up, a 2-pound sinker, what AJ's brought to the boat is this jigging. And it's a whole different aspect to this fishing, which is really great.
I mean, I love diamond jigging for porgies.
Yeah, and you don't.
Why not do it for 40-pound tiles and bigger jigs and a little bit bigger tackle?
And he brought here, and even when I saw it at first, I was quite, and I went down, I told Paul, I said, give me a jig, I went down, and I caught it. Oh wow, you actually hold it up. People don't realize that you can hold it, but I didn't realize, and it's you do it. It's a lot of fun. It's light tackle. So if you're looking for light tackle fun and you don't want to have a big setup, you can do this all day long and you will catch fish consistently. He does that all day. And there's a few other anglers that are on the boat doing that all day, and they're catching just as many as the guys with the bait fishing. They fish the opposite side. They go
and
in
it's
the
more
stern.
fun.
It's using
much
light
more fun.
tackle in that deep water. It's so nice. You have less resistance when you're reeling up.
You don't
there's
have to
nothing
worry
better.
about touching bait either. Just
No,
in it.
not at all.
And you
Or
can
losing
cover
your bait.
ground on the boat. Yeah.
Or losing bait,
Yeah.
Like, I got a bite. Well, now I don't have to reel up check my bait.
Yeah.
And these slow pitch rods that they use, they're lighter than my fluke tackle.
That's lighter than my trout tackle.
Yeah, it's like insane how they keep
My Shakespeare Ugly Stick that I use.
Who would have thought, right?
So basic, but
you go
that
down.
is lighter than the Shakespeare Ugly
It's
Stick.
amazing how they
Shakespeare Ugly Stick needs to fucking sponsor me already. I swear to God, I talk about this rod all the time. It's a great travel rod. You could forget it on the plane, and it's only like $50. I've forgotten like 2 of them. It's just whatever. I'll get another one. Sounds terrible, but.
No, it's
and
amazing.
they don't break. You just bend them back. But that thing looks like a piece of art. Like, that's not some, like, that looks like some custom work.
Oh, the rod I brought, that's more of a special edition one.
Yeah, that looks special edition.
All that stuff originated in Florida, and that's when I first saw it when I was working.
You said you were fishing in Key West?
Yeah, I used to work in Key West.
That's awesome.
And that's where I first saw the slow pitching, and I was very questionable
For
myself.
snapper and like grouper and stuff?
grouper,
Yeah.
tilefish, everything.
And deep water
Everything.
too?
You know, it's a little, oh yeah,
You think
You know?
somebody could jig a swordfish?
they've done it.
Like big
I've
ones?
seen them. Nothing too big yet, but,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's very popular in Japan and New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's picking up a lot of speed here. It's
Especially these types of jigs. I see like
yeah.
that style from Japan, like a lot of those. I
That's-
even have a porgy jig from Japan that's like
Yeah.
this big. It's cut kind of like those too.
my buddy who showed me how to do it. He started 10 years ago over that, you know.
Yeah.
He was kind of the trial run, you know. He had to figure everything out when it was in Japanese. Now they're starting to switch over and realize, all right, there's a US market for all of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's these they pack a lot of punch. You know, you look at the rods like, oh, what are you going to do with that? You know, everyone
Yeah,
makes fun of you.
Looks like a
And
fluke
then-
rod almost.
It's amazing, right?
But that thing,
It's wild.
You know, I mean,
I
they
tested
saw
it
me.
out. That thing
yeah.
is tough. That thing's not breaking.
It's amazing how like the science behind this all, you know, like if you talk to Victor Becker right now and you tell him, hey, this is the rod I caught my 20-pound tilefish on, he'll be like, no way.
Because they were using heavier tackle.
These guys were going down a wire line
Oh my
just to hit the
God.
bottom. It's
With-
six, it's 6 O's.
with like minimum 5 pounds of lead back then because that's all they had.
Sounds miserable.
My entire setup here is almost less than 22 ounces in total, the rod and reel. I'm only using 15-pound test fishing.
I was gonna ask you how tough is that test because they're in like
Yeah.
they live in rock piles, right?
Some of
for the
them, you
most
know,
part?
the grays.
You
live
said
in
some are
rougher
in
stuff.
mud.
The blues, the Goldens are in the mud.
In the mud.
Yeah,
And
the-
what are they feeding on down there? What's like their main source of food?
So the reason why they're called tilefish, the whole school of them, they end up burrowing into holes that they make with their heads or their tails, and they back into them, and they're almost like an army formation down there. So when you go over a patch of fish, you start catching them. You found the school of them that in that area. That's why they're called tilefish. They look like tiles on the bottom. So they just back into their hole and wait there until something gets in front of them.
And go.
And obviously, if they see something go in front of them, they could chase it. If it gets out, they'll come out.
So how fast can they hit like a that type of a turn? Like how fast can they hit a bait and turn immediately back into the hole?
There's no videos on it.
It's
It's kind of it's tough to.
I would have
mean-
to think they're super aggressive. Personally,
You think they are super aggressive?
Yeah, because the way they
whether they're hungry or
counsel-
not, they're kind of like just defending the entrance to their hole, right? I mean,
think if they're down there, the way they hit the jigs, they're an aggressive fish.
Yeah.
they smack it.
And
Oh,
they
yeah.
do chase bait. And Paulie said, when I first started doing it, the first, just like fluking, you're down there dragging bottom. He was fishing next to me, and I got a hit. I said, oh, man, he's like, no, leave it back down. Just like every other fishing, back to the basics of, what we do. Let some more line out, and sure as shit, they come back. That tells me that these fish, they're chasing, they're swimming, they're not staying in one place.
Yeah.
They're going to follow whatever comes within their path.
So how long is the fight with like a 40-pound fish from that deep?
Would you get that one in what, like 600?
600 feet.
That one was caught. The 42-pounder was caught in about 600 foot. It was on an electric. I don't know.
I don't think it's more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah?
less than 10 minutes.
Less than 10 minutes. I think maybe
When
6,
everyone's
7
like, oh,
minutes.
it takes forever to reel them up. It really doesn't take that
not.
long. Everyone's like, oh, it must take forever.
Nah.
It's not. You don't even realize it.
And this is, and just to backtrack a little bit, you said something interesting where we were talking about how people they have this vision because this is an older fishing. It really is. Unless you gone on the Viking and the Voyager recently, within the last several years, you don't know too much about it. So you heard the stories from years ago, but like, oh man, it's so much line, you got to hold so much lead, and you have to, the big tackle and all this, because it's what we grew up hearing all the time. But times have changed, and we have more modern technology with tackle. We're doing different things, and you can get away with a lighter setup and still catch these really great fish in deep water. It's cool, man. If you're into fishing and you like trying something,
Yeah, I do.
this is I'm telling you, you'll be jeweled up.
Do any guys use spinning gear at all or no?
Not really.
No, it's got to be
It's-
conventional. What kind of reel is that you're
need the
using?
gearing.
That's like a
So those
on your custom thing.
on the slow pitch
Yeah,
rod,
yeah, yeah.
I use an Accurate 500N.
Accurate.
They're light.
They looks badass.
I mean, you could use a lot of different reels, but that's just, kind of the lightest one. And they have
whole setup is so
they have
light.
a slow pitch jig handle for it
Yeah.
to, they kind of just make it a little more comfortable. But on that, I have 3 different slow pitch Tilefish setups. That's the lightest one.
So you're hooked on this.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
how long have you been doing this? Since you came back up from Key West? This is like the closest thing to deep dropping.
The first time
I
I was ever deep dropping, I was working a trip in Key West, and I had no idea what I was doing there. My buddy was just like, "Oh, just tie high low rig," and it's like fluking. I'm like, "Okay," and then that was it. And I came back, and me and Paul fished a few Tilefish trips together. And now we're here. And then the last time I fished in Key West, I met the guy who got me into it and who started a lot of this in the U.S. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try it. And then, it finally worked where I had all the right tackle, the right setup, the right motion of everything. And, once you figure it out, it's really not even that hard. It's a little daunting to get into because there's 8 million different jigs out there. There's 8 million different rods and reels.
can't
and
believe
options.
you're using 15-pound tests.
Yeah. I mean, my heaviest rod, I have 30. The lighter rod, I have 20.
Is it a mono leader? Like,
I usually use mono. I usually use fluoro just because it's a little stiffer, but it doesn't really matter down there. And you need to use an FG knot or a PR knot to.
If you're using like bait, is it just like a chicken rig or is it a high-low rig or what is it?
So it's like a heavy duty version of like a fluke rig / codfish rig.
Cool.
So you got these giant 3-way swivels with the whole rig is made up between 80 and 100-pound test.
Whoa.
So you got these 2 giant 3-way swivels. You have a piece of leader about, I don't know, 2.5 feet between the two. Then on each swivel you have about 1.5 foot leader with a hook on it. And then you have on the bottom 3-way you obviously have your sinker leader with the loop, and then you tie your main line to the top of the second 3-way up top. So it's like a high-low rig, and on the hook you could put teasers if you want, squid skirts, all that good stuff like you would fluking.
Yeah.
So it's like a combination between like a heavy-duty cod rig / fluke rig.
That's cool.
Sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
Whatever you make your fluke rig, just bigger pound test.
Okay.
That's
Same length
you can,
of leader,
and you will
kinda?
catch fish.
No, you want a
longer?
short.
Shorter?
No, short. You got to think your
Like
rig
that
is
kinda?
12 inches,
Yeah.
16 at the most.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got to think you're dropping down 6, 7, 8, however deep. You don't want the least amount of spinning as possible. So, even when it comes down to the tackle, you could put all the glow squids on and the skirts and everything. But sometimes it's almost easier to just put like a glow bead. And then, you have these little.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, sorry to interrupt you. Just so many questions. The glow bead, is that similar to like a flashing like light on the bottom?
No,
like,
it's just literally
it's just
a
glowing
bead that glows.
Does anybody
That's it.
use those like
the
those lights?
Yes, people use them.
Because that's what in Guatemala they had these big lights strapped like on the chicken rig, like it was like a 15-pound rig.
I'm sure it makes a
strips
difference.
of bonito like this big, 4 of them, and then a giant weight. It was probably like a 2-pound weight, and this giant flashing.
Sure, it makes a
It's
difference
probably
sometimes.
pitch black down there, right?
I mean, we're Tilefish usually only bite during the day, and on top of that, they don't bite as well on cloudy days.
Interesting.
And that's just something
Really?
everyone's
So
kind of
even though
noticed.
it's that deep,
It makes a
clouds
difference.
mess it up.
Yep.
You got to
That
think
sucks.
it might be dark down there, but the sunlight still has a little bit of effect. It might be dark for us, but for them, one less shade of darkness might make a difference.
They might just sleep through the whole day.
No, I've seen it happen on the Voyager before where
Man, is that something you're taking into account before you do these trips? Are you looking for clear days? I mean,
you can't really do that, at the same time it's a business. We can't cancel unless, like one thing I take into account for is if it's blowing more than 20 knots, I'll cancel, where if I was tuna fishing and it's blowing 25, I would still go.
wow.
Because tile fishing, you got to understand you're drifting, and once it starts blowing more than 20 knots, now your weights increase from, 3 pounds the most to 5 pounds the most. You have to hold bottom.
Very uncomfortable fishing.
It's very uncomfortable
At that
once you
point.
get past 20 knots.
You'll be
That sounds
wasting
miserable.
people's time.
Yeah.
They're not happy, and we as a busy, we want to show people a good time.
Yeah, and you're going offshore. Like
It's just
you
not
wanna-
worth it for the people. We'd
you wanna
rather
get knocked
reschedule.
around for all that time.
Yeah, It's different. Like he said,
20 miles an hour.
you got to have a good drift, and you got to have.
Yeah, but you don't want it to be dead calm either. Are you looking for like a little?
Yeah, so you have to. It's again, it goes back to fluking. You drift too slow, you don't catch him as good.
Yeah.
You drift too fast, you don't catch him as good. It's like that happy medium you got to find.
I had that in Nantucket with the fluke. It was dead calm. You
No.
could barely drift, and it was like. Usually they were telling us to bring up all these heavy weights and bucktails and whatnot, and then it ended up just being like a lake. And that day was really slow.
Fortunately,
Couldn't
last
get a
trip,
drift.
we did, we got over some good bottom, and that's when we caught. So the drift actually, we kind of compensated because we found some for those blue
So
lines.
these
that
are
we
just
caught.
rock piles down there. Is that what we're looking at? Like what?
Hills of hard bottom.
Hills of hard bottom. So are you fishing the valleys?
So
Trying to find those holes, those pockets?
well, the last trip, it started off a little slow because there was lack of drift. You have to cover ground, and I was running from one spot to the next, and I ended up finding this rocky bottom that was like on a slope, and the average depth was about 400 feet on this bottom, and it went down. It went up to like 350 and went down to like 500. So it was just like this
Lock and
big
load.
area.
Yeah.
And with the slow drift, I was able to just pretty much stay on top of it and work every edge around it. Right. We picked a few fish on this part of the bottom. Obviously, any good captain would, as soon as he runs over a piece of bottom, you map it out, see how big it is, see where it ends, see where it starts. All right, lines up. Let's go up a little bit. Go up a couple of 100 feet. Fish this part of the bottom. Pick a few more nice fish. All right, guys, lines up. Fish this piece of the bottom. Pick a few more nice fish off of it. You pretty much walk around that whole piece of bottom picking fish.
Got you.
So that helped. That saved the day. And then towards the end of the day, I found a nice pile of blue lines mixed with goldens.
Nice.
So,
They were big too.
Yeah.
We had big fish. I mean, I gaffed the first one I think that came up, and I couldn't believe how the size of these things.
What were the regs on these
we caught
fish?
there were blue lines up to 18 pounds, which
How-
are very big.
How big do these fish have to be to keep? Is there regulations on them? Or
No,
it's been so long that there's like no regs on them?
there's a limit on them. So
Okay.
you're allowed
Per
eight
angler?
eight
Okay.
goldens and 7 blue lines.
Seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever limited out personally? You probably have.
Yeah, 2 trips ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we caught our limit
That's
of
crazy.
the goldens.
The only trip that I didn't limit out the whole boat was this last trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every trip I've been limiting the boat out.
Were those some of the biggest fish you've gotten on these trips, on that last trip?
2 of the biggest fish we've gotten so far since we've been doing this was on this last trip.
Yeah,
Nice.
42 and 38
Were those on jigs or on bait?
bait.
We did catch one just over 20 pounds on a jig, though, which ended up being that angler's personal best tile fish. So
Was
We
that
had
a
a lot
blue
of-
or a golden?
that was a golden.
We had a lot of records last trip for personal best, and if they were caught on manuals, they would have been state records too.
And these are beautiful fish, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like
yeah.
the pictures don't even do them justice.
No. I
They
mean, the
don't,
videos
right?
the videos are a little bit better if you watch the videos that I put up, but it's amazing, man.
Yeah.
It really is, and we're really trying hard over here to put good catches together for like I said, with the underdogs, we're coming up, and we started doing this, and it's been really successful. It's like I'm super stoked, man. I
Yeah.
haven't been personally. I've been doing this and I was out of it, and Paulie, coming back to the whole thing, and it brought a big spark to me.
Yeah.
So, and I can't say it enough. Want to show more people about this. It's you don't know how long it'll last.
Yeah.
Regulations nowadays.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it while it's here.
Is this something like, you've been doing for a while now, or is this like when would you say you started really getting into this and like running trips?
The tile fishing?
Yeah.
My first trip was last year.
Okay.
I ended up taking a few of my friends out pretty much on a crew trip. It was when we were shut down during COVID.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends in the industry were out of work, and I do have a second job. I work on tugboats for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I ended up coming home one day in May. I said, I really want to take my dad's boat out tile fishing. That's like something historic.
Yeah.
That's like he's, the Tampa going out back in 1973, and I like
Bringing it back.
bringing it back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a true story, man.
It's like
It's cool.
it's like a 70s party in Sheepshead Bay,
Time machine.
Exactly. So I called my friend AJ up. We got a bunch of guys together. We went out, and I planned it out as a 2-day trip. I said, I didn't know how the tile fishing was going to be. It's my first trip on the boat. So I planned it out where first day will be tile fishing, second day will be wreck fishing. So I figured if tile fishing wasn't going to be good, at least I'll be able to find some cod and ling to make up for it.
Yeah.
I always have that plan. I'm a hungry captain. I have to come home with something. I can't.
That's that Sheepshead Bay in you.
Yeah, that's like the sheep. I can't accept the fact that I'm coming home with nothing. I take that stuff. I take it personal. I'll never get over that.
So you work hard for these fish. You work hard to find them.
And like I said, the first drift that day, this guy, his name is actually Tilefish Mike, gets a 30-pounder, and I was like, oh boy. So now I'm thinking, that's either going to be the only fish we catch or it's going to be a really good day. I gaffed it, and we end up catching these things. That drift lasted an hour and a half.
Wow.
Constant. The only problem was we had bluefish.
It's a nice pick.
We had some bluefish around that kind of, slowed the bite down because they would get in the way.
In what way? Like just in the water column?
Catching
Like
them.
trying to send the bait through it?
Yeah.
Just they were on
Oh,
the.
you're catching them.
Yeah,
Got
we-
it.
yeah. So
They're
they
hitting the jig on the way down?
I wasn't jigging at that point.
Oh, okay.
But,
Gotcha.
yeah,
What kind of bait are you using at this point? Like squid, clams, stuff like that?
Tilefish almost eat anything.
Anything.
Anything. You could ask everybody that ever has gone tile fishing. Everyone has their favorite bait. Oh, I
Gotcha.
use salmon.
So
I
what's
use
like
this, I
the
use
house
that.
bait on the
Squid.
boat?
So
And can you rent a rod for this?
as of right now, no. Again, this
Okay.
is new to us. I do want to get a few setups that will rent out.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have to save a few bucks. But
Yeah, it's not cheap, but it seems like one of those things where if you really get into it, it could be a lot of fun. Like, what's like the season like?
so tilefish,
Like spring, summer. What are we talking?
tilefish, you could catch all year round.
Okay.
There's no season for them. The problem is just getting the weather window, which is, in the summer you have a better chance of going because winter, spring, fall, you got a lot of wind. You could have like, decent weather window in January or something. You put up a trip like, hey, I looked at the long range forecast. It looks good this day. Let's go tile fishing. Go
And
out.
they're there.
You're there. You'll probably catch them.
Okay.
You do see some dogfish out there in the winter, believe it or not, just like you would inshore,
600-foot dogfish.
which can get
They're
annoying.
everywhere.
But
I saw some kid on Instagram the other day. He was fishing in Costa Rica. He's got like a Spanish mackerel, a little like bonito, and a dogfish. I was like, you catch that shit right here. Why'd you go to Costa Rica? And they're like, yeah, we got a shark. I'm like,
So,
it's a dogfish, bro. It's in Costa Rica.
to chime in, but it's as far as the setups go, if somebody wants to go on these trips,
Yeah.
and before we get the rental rods and all that for the boat, and they want to have something, they can go. You don't have to spend tons of money on this.
Okay.
You need something that's long in length and that's sturdy enough that can hold enough weight, a 2-pound weight on it. If you want to go on the cheap, you could probably go to a Dick's and find a nice stiff rod, conventional rod, and you can make it work. As far as the reel goes, you do get what you pay for. If you want to spend a couple of $100, we actually have a video that AJ, it said some recommendations that if anybody ever wanted to know, we could lead you in that direction to know specifically.
We did a whole YouTube, whole video.
Are you on the gram?
Oh yeah.
What's your gram handle?
At Fisherman Angler.
Fisherman Angler. Nice
Yeah,
handle.
You'll just see mostly the slow pitch stuff. That video that Keith was talking about, we put up on the Captain Dave Facebook page.
Use
and
the
it's just,
GoPro? Is that what you got?
yeah, and we just went
Do
through.
the head thing or the chest one?
He was just holding.
My buddy's got the thing strapped to his head. Shout out to Dennis. And then every picture, he's like in it with this fucking thing
I'm
strapped
usually
to his face.
videotaping most of the
Yeah.
stuff.
No
But
offense, Dennis. I
we
always
just-
tell you take it off.
We just go over basically the rod, the reel, the electric rod and reel. I go over the tackle recommendations on what you could go on the cheaper side, the more expensive side.
What's like the most expensive
reel.
electric reel you could get for the sport if
I
you
don't know how
wanted
much
to just
money you
get
wanna
like
spend.
a
You could go get a Beastmaster for $1,600
Beastmaster?
or $2,000. Yeah.
Well, what
How
you
serious is that
recommended
thing?
the electric reel,
Swordfish with
the
it.
dial.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Generally,
badass.
like, speaking, if you want a decent electric reel that's not going to go overboard with the wallet, I usually use a Tanacom 750 made by Daiwa, and like
You
that's
just charge this thing? Like I've never
no,
bought one.
so the Tanacom, they make a few different sizes, make 1,000, a 750, and a 500, obviously ranging in sizes. The 1,000 is the biggest. The 750 is our go-to. They make small portable batteries for
Okay.
them that are kind of tough to find, but it has a power cable on it, about 8 feet. I'm sure you could make an extension if you wanted.
You can make
But we
it
just bring car batteries, boat batteries. Usually those are a little bit better. They last a whole day. The battery chargers, a motorcycle battery, you could do it, but
Yeah, that's so. One of the guys on the Voyager when I worked there, he came up with putting on getting a little motorcycle, two little motorcycle batteries. So he had one charged and one he put in the backpack with the battery cable connected to it. So now if you could hook tuna and stuff out there with the Tilefish rigs, what do you do when you have a car battery connected to your that's laying there? So at least he with the backpack,
like Ghostbusters.
he
Yeah,
could
you run around.
walk he could walk around the boat and still use his electric reel, where other people would have to get disconnected from their car battery because you're not carrying a 30-pound battery
Wow.
around with you. And if his battery runs out, he's got one charged up already. He puts the other one on the charge, so he has two batteries rotating all day,
Yeah,
which makes a lot of sense.
that's pretty badass.
And it helps out, especially when you have to walk. Like
so
you said.
like with
Yeah.
with me, I've got like 2 pretty bad shoulder injuries. So like the reeling from that depth, like I feel like a full day of that would like destroy me for like 3 to 4 days. That's why I'm asking about the electric, because I might just have to do that because I don't know if my
electric,
shoulders
it's-
could take that shit anymore. I got
like I said, no one should be making fun of you. If they do, then
I don't care, but I ain't
Yeah.
gonna making fun of me. It
it's
happens
really
all the
not
time.
that bad. There's a lot of older guys. that
Yeah,
will tile fish
yeah,
all
I'm
day.
sure they're hurting too,
And-
dude. You get old,
Yeah, I know,
you
but,
can't reel that shit
A
anymore.
lot of times you put it on the rail.
Yeah.
You bring a pool noodle, you tape the pool noodle to the rail so it's nice
That's a
and
nice
comfortable.
move. There you
Yeah,
go.
you don't see that too often.
No, I've never seen that
and
before.
you tape it on, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You can lean the rod on it. You're not going to beat up your rod. You could lean on it. You're going to be nice and comfortable.
That's a great call.
But, a lot of times no one's going to be a hero and crank in or just hold the rod. There's no point to it.
So nobody's created anything like that, like a
I mean,
pool noodle,
there-
like an invention like that to put on
I'm
the rail.
sure you see guys doing it here and there,
I'm gonna
but
create
like,
that shit. Let's
you know-
create a prototype and work on it.
a lot of guys,
A rail pad,
some guys will use the rocket launchers. which
rocket
is-
launchers,
They're very frowned upon.
warfare. What are we
it's,
talking about here?
it's a rod holder that comes up out of the standard boat rod holder, and basically is just another rod holder that goes over the side of the boat, so you can just put your rod in there and leave it alone.
It's like an
But
outrigger
we-
kind of.
But we
Yeah, it's out-
don't.
it's
You
not
don't,
like
allow,
a
you don't allow those.
We do and don't. It's like if we think it's going to be a problem,
Yeah.
because these guys obviously they just stick the rod in there and forget about it.
You don't pay attention.
You don't pay attention. So if like
It's an
conditions are,
entangle shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
and conditions are bad, we're gonna have to tell you, hey, you guys got to hold your rods and pay attention. You
Yeah.
can't just leave them there.
Even if you're watching it, it's not the same as holding your
Don't
rod.
you have to
showing
get
where
to it?
everything
I'm
goes.
trying to like
Well,
visualize.
it's not that far out. You're not like
Okay.
reaching 3 feet over.
So
the
what are they
side.
getting out of this? An extra
don't have
like
to hold
foot and a
it.
half, or
Well, they
no? It's
just
just
don't-
holding it.
it's
exactly.
it's just
a
being
holder.
lazy and not holding
How
your rod.
lazy you gonna? Why? Listen, why would you go out on a trip like that to do that?
You get the
I don't
angle of the
understand
rod.
it. I don't understand it. You could do the noodle thing.
Well,
You sleep
Now
all the
the
way
world-
out there to
now
be
the world
lazy.
knows- now the world knows about pool noodles, so everyone can bring
that
them.
pool noodle, somebody's gonna invent that shit.
And then we
I
could have
swear.
a pool party on the way in the
I
exacta
swear,
box.
they better cut us in on that if they hear it from here, because
I'm
that's
not a
a good
big
idea.
fan of them.
What, when you see a noodle?
Not all with the
No.
rocket launches.
Oh, the rocket launchers.
Some guys down
How much
south.
do those things cost?
I have no idea.
guys make them.
They make them. Was it like PVC piping, and they just put
It's
it in?
aluminum piping with an
Aluminum
angle on it.
piping,
So so the rod has an angle. You press the button,
Yeah.
and then it just.
You ever do like tuna tile combo trips? Because you're saying you're seeing all this life. Like, have you thought about like doing some type of combo or something? Or is it like if you commit to tile, that's the move?
The problem is the clientele for tuna fishing normally they don't like tile fishing, and the tile
That's
fishermen
interesting.
normally don't like tuna fishing. But the difference is with the tile fishermen, if they get a tuna on the boat and get a steak, they're happy. Where the tuna fishermen, they don't care about the tile fish for whatever reason. It's like
It's funny because we were just talking about this literally
That's
half
really
an hour
funny.
ago about the I mean, we hook.
So it's two totally different groups of anglers.
we troll in between drops.
I would do both. I would be
Well,
into that.
you
I mean,
gotta-
it's two different types of tackle, right? So you got to bring two setups.
It's doubled up of everything, and we want to really focus on catching these tiles.
Yeah, dialing in on them and getting even like 60, 70-pound fish.
That's the whole
that
thing with
could
this.
happen, yeah.
It's
I
like,
think it could happen.
It's
It
like
sounds like these things have bounced back.
it's like going fluking, and then you want to go blue fishing.
Yeah.
It's two totally different. You know, you going fluking inshore, and then you want to go anchor up offshore and you go chumming bluefish. You bring in. We would have to double up on our bait, and for the most part, you got to put your time in for either one. Tuna fishing sometimes, it's top water fishing. You got to find the right temperatures. You got to find the right, where you're anchoring up. You got to work them into the boat once they're there. It's tuna fishing's a little more time consuming at times.
Yeah, what happens if a guy is onto a really nice fish? He ends up taking a big chunk of time. Does that ever happen with tuna? Have you ever seen that?
The last trip, actually, on one of the slow pitch setups, we hooked a tuna, which was believed to be a big eye. And we would have had, I guess we fought him for about a half hour, 40 minutes. Well,
You think that long? I
30
was thinking half an hour.
30-pound test.
But everybody had their lines up?
No.
Not for
so-
one person.
Really?
Well, I had him reel him up for a second, and then once we got the fish in the back, it stayed in the stern. So everyone on the set had told him to drop him down.
It was on the way down. I mean, while he was coming around the boat, the guy wasn't really paying attention. He wasn't reeling in, and that's when it went around.
You got tired for a second, maybe?
Well, anyway, a rig ended up going on the line.
Yeah,
It's real.
it's party boat.
We reeled instead of reeling up a tuna fish.
He
we reeled
dropped
up
it?
a 2-pound sinker.
He dropped it.
Well,
No,
sinker.
with the sinker. When you get tangled up and you got a sinker,
It popped the hook.
Yeah, it pops the hook. And
Oh.
Yeah.
It's
And he
cool
fought it
seeing
for a half hour. And then
he
lost.
fought this
That
thing. I think I
sucks.
was more upset than most people. It's
And
because it was textbook. The kid fought it right. He had the right tackle. Everything was. We got this thing under the bowsprit, brought her around, got through the wheels, through the rudders, right in the stern, up and down. This thing was, and
Did you have color or no?
no,
No.
she was up and down. She was coming up.
I mean, it was
Big head shakes.
It was cool because it was on the slow pitch gear.
That's awesome. So
Everyone,
you never know what you could get out there.
That's the
No,
cool thing. I mean,
Yeah.
on the last trip, not that it's anything to write home about. When I was slow pitching, I caught squid, I caught ling, I dropped
That's
down
fun.
900 feet of water, and I'm like, oh, rosefish come up to ling. You catch squirrel hake. I got Keith a nice whiting.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I was somehow
Nice little,
catching
buffet.
I was catching squid. I was like, wow, this
That's
is
so cool. Did any of you guys by chance see what was in the news yesterday about the fish they pulled up off Madagascar? It was allegedly extinct since the dinosaurs. It has been seen like 400 million years.
what was the name of it?
Some crazy long name. Looks like a cod, kind of.
Oh, now I have to look it up.
Yeah, it looks like a cod
Wonder
and a
what it's
tilefish. Well,
doesn't
apparently they're long lining the shit out of them off the coast of Madagascar, and they're catching them on this really deep gear that they're using for like sharks. And they caught this fish. I don't know. Yeah, I saw that on the
wonder
news. I
if
thought it
it
was
was
pretty
just-
cool. But it goes back to that idea of like you never know what you'll pull up. You know,
Never know.
You
Bunch of
never
different
know, yeah.
species,
You know?
and then we cook them up.
Right on the boat?
at nighttime. Yeah, we'll throw them on and
that's fun.
cook up some
That's what
fresh
I'm
fillets.
talking about.
Yeah, yet another thing that people don't get to experience all the time is fresh fish, and I pride myself on that. It's especially this fish. This is something that is a top shelf fish that's up there. You go into a restaurant and they got tilefish on the menu. You're paying just as much as that than you are for swordfish on the
Yeah.
plate. And yet another reason to come on out and try it out. It's super. I mean, it falls apart when you're cooking it. You got to be so quick just picking it up and plating it because the meat just falls right apart. It really great stuff.
Let me ask you a few questions about this species. So, like, do we know a lot about this fish? Like, do we know how it breeds? Like, do we know more or less, like, does it migrate at all? You're saying you can catch them all year, so it sounds like they're not moving that much. They kind of dig those burrows, and it's
There's
like
definitely
life in the
guys that
burrow.
know
Like,
more than us. The
Yeah, I'm
commercial
sure the
guys.
commercial guys, they probably have a better idea on it.
yeah,
What I got over the few years, everyone kind of has their own theories behind it.
Okay.
You know, like it sounds like the fish might start move up. Some of the bigger fish to spawn. It sounds like they move up shallower in the winter into the spring to spawn, and then in the summer they start going back down to the deep.
Are they laying eggs? Is it live young? What do you think?
Oh yeah. In the spring you definitely catch a lot of fish that have roe in them, which that would make sense.
Is it good? Is it good roe? Like, have you ever cooked it? Caviar?
I don't. Believe it or not, I don't eat fish.
Oh yeah, you're saying that. And also, what's because I know swordfish they live pretty deep, right? They have a pretty high mercury level. Do these fish have like a high mercury level?
These fish that we catch up here do have a slightly higher mercury level, but a lot of what you see on the news is the Gulf of Mexico biomass. They have a higher mercury level because of the Mississippi River.
Do you think that's where the tilefish in our stores is coming from down south? Do you think it's coming from offshore in South Jersey?
There's two commercial boats up here that do it long lining.
So there's a few boats. You got a few boats out of Jersey that long line for them.
Yeah.
And you have a few boats out of Long Island that long line for them.
What's the biggest fish these guys have seen? What do you think?
They get in the 60s.
60s?
Oh, yeah.
Any hundos? Any hundreds?
Maybe years ago.
I think the world
That's
record's
wild.
78?
Yeah, I think
78 is the world record?
I believe
Something
so.
like that? That's a
We're
big
halfway there.
fish.
Yeah.
That's like a 7-8 foot fish. I don't know. What's the girth on that?
When tilefish get that big, they look weird.
They get the lump on their head like sea bass, kind of?
No. They
Well, they get that get like that horn.
And don't they have pretty big teeth? Like these fish have teeth?
Yeah.
They do have teeth, not like bluefish teeth or anything. Almost
More like blackfish?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's like a...
Sharp. Teeth are kind of sharp, no?
I'd say they're closer to blackfish.
You know what this fish kind of reminds me of? The Pacific sheep's head. You know what I'm talking about? It's like black and red and black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they look like blackfish.
They got big. Yeah, they're more so blackfish, but this thing is like a mix of like almost like a wrasse or something, and like a
Definitely in the wrasse family.
big ass. Like, is it a giant wrasse? Pretty much. Like
No, they have their own species.
their own species.
There's actually the ones we catch here are the biggest
Yeah,
of all of
the
them.
Goldens get the biggest, right?
Yeah, there's 37 tilefish species in the world,
Whoa,
and the grays and the Goldens are the biggest ones.
that's really interesting.
A lot of them are shallower water, live around reefs and stuff.
In warmer waters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, when's the next trip?
So we have a 32-hour trip.
Oh, I gotta pause before I forget this. I want to ask this 3 times, and then somebody starts talking. I forget. How long do you think these fish take to grow? What's the lifespan of these fish? How old is a 40-pound fish?
I don't know if anyone.
Does anybody know this?
They grow slow.
They're definitely slow growers.
Okay.
I don't think anybody has it down to science on how they actually grow, what their growth rate is. That's what makes tilefish so weird. It's like I said, everyone has theories behind it, but there's no like hardcore facts on them besides how to catch them, how to find them, and what they eat. That's it.
Yeah.
They were actually caught accidentally. They were found accidentally by long lining for codfish years ago.
Interesting.
Like when they
That's
used
a
to
cool fact.
back in the day, like when they used to have like the motherships come and go, they used to send the dories out, long line for cod.
Yeah.
One day someone caught a tilefish and they're like, wow, that's not a codfish. What's this? So
Fried it up. They're like, this looks pretty good.
Yeah. Then over the years, obviously, people started looking for them and started finding them. They're actually called the poor man's lobster because they taste like lobster, but in the fish market, they're cheaper than lobster. So
Yeah.
I love it.
And you asked about bait before,
Yeah.
and if,
Whoa. Those are massive.
That's my buddy James on the long liner out in Montauk.
Whoa. Look at the heads on these things.
Yeah, see what I mean? They look a little bit
Reef
different when they get
donkeys.
that big.
Those are massive.
imagine that in the end of your line.
What is that one on my side?
I mean, that one's
50,
probably
60, 70?
60.
So they do exist in the present day.
So how old do you think that thing is? 10 years old?
Most of the studies on
20
the
years
age-
old?
Most of the studies on the age rate have been down in the Gulf of Mexico. They take the
No
yearboat.
one cares about these northeast tiles.
no.
I mean,
So
they
that's what
take
makes the
year-
fishery beautiful then.
Yeah, they
you know,
take the
they're there.
earbones out.
And it doesn't seem like people are pounding them too hard. Like it's not like
Oh, we're back out.
they're not going to get overfished again unless people, don't do the right thing again. But
And I
For
know
the most part, it looks like you guys have found like a little niche here that you can
Definitely.
really get into. It sounds like you're like down the rabbit hole, obsessed with it from all the gear you have, and like.
I mean, the slow pitching like up here, that's kind of the cooler. I mean, you could slow pitch cod.
All right, so when you're saying slow pitch, try to like describe to people like what that kind of
so
looks
like
like
slow
or feels
pitch
like.
jigging is basically high tech diamond jigging. You know, all the gear is specially designed and everything to be able to use lighter stuff. The rods give the jigs more action, and when I say slow pitch jigs, it's a very wide range. There's a million different jigs, sizes, shapes, colors. It's all what you kind of just find comfortable with. You know, jigs go from $12 to $45 for the same size jig, and you know the slow pitch jigging up here, it doesn't take off as quick because you could go for sea bass, cod, pollock, you know, your general fish that you catch with a diamond jig. You know, you lose some jigs.
Yeah.
The tile fishing is the cooler thing to do because you just keep pushing the boundary of like, you know, I started with 30. I thought that was crazy. And then I went down to the 20. And now, you know, I'm fishing with 15-pound test braid in 400 or 500 feet of water. And,
sounds risky.
you know, but you got to think the actual breaking strength of it. And, you know, you actually start technically thinking when you do this type of jigging because, you know, you're thinking 15 pounds, you know, braid doesn't actually break at 15 pounds. And usually you're not going to apply over 15 pounds of drag to a fish, at least tile fishing up here. And, you know, it takes off a little bit more down in Florida because you have the snapper, the grouper, you know, everything's a little more aggressive with it. But, I mean, the slow pitch jigging up here is just starting to take off. And, you know, a lot of guys are starting to ask about it and do it up here. And, you know, I just kind of...
Why is it called slow pitch? Why is that?
So,
does that have a slow flutter to it when it drops?
So
Like,
that's
what is that?
the description of it. The pitch is the way the rod brings the jig up and kind of flicks it to give it, you know, I call it jig mode or whatever.
Jig
you know.
mode?
Well, where, you know, instead of the jig just going straight up and down and
Yeah,
having
it's got a
no
little
flutter,
flutter on the
you
way
know,
down.
all the power loads up in the tip and it actually gives it a little flick and puts the jig kind of horizontal in the water so it actually flutters down. And the slow is basically most jigs with the slow pitch jigs, you know, they fall slowly. That's what it's trying to mimic. That's what in Japan, you know, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever they actually started doing that, you know, they wanted to design a type of fishing that tries to mimic dead or dying fish. And that's the closest thing to it. And, you know, try to get a reaction out of a fish that normally wouldn't be as aggressive towards bait or something. I mean, over there, they're doing it crazy deep. They're fishing
Yeah,
they're fishing like 2,000.
What can these fish even see in that?
I mean, they're fishing like 2,000 feet of water over there.
How
I think
how have
they
their
see,
eyes adapted?
motion and movements.
Silhouettes, kind of like. I mean, a lot of those jigs are different
Vibrations.
colors. Does
lot
it
of them
even make a
glow.
difference? I'm sure everybody has a preference. I'm sure glowing definitely
A
helps.
lot of them glow. I mean, there's
That's
a few.
cool. Glow in the dark jigs, man.
You get the UV lights going on them.
UV lights.
Oh, dude, you
going.
get the UV light. You charge them up and
Yeah.
everything at night, and
a
get
lot of
light.
energy involved in this sport.
Oh, this gets me all pumped up.
Dude, and what's cool about it, and I said this, that fishing report that I sent you.
Yeah.
I say it, and I love to express it. A lot of people forget about tackle and part of the sport. I see it a lot of times. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Experiment. Don't go crazy. Keep the basics, but try a different color. But you see how many jigs he has? You know, like all this stuff. And that's
You got a briefcase.
I have
It's
like
like
three
a,
bags.
it's the fun
Three
of it.
bags,
You know,
oh
you
my
make a
God.
rig, you throw a little teaser on there. Let me try this one. You have a couple of rigs, you know, and then when you catch something, it's gratification for yourself that, oh wow, you know, like I figured this out. Like
Yeah, it paid off.
It's like, yeah, I got my own little niche or something
Yeah.
like that. And it's this fishing, it's just like fluking and it's like anything else. You have fun. You go out there. You listen to, whatever we tell you. You know, like, you know, take the advice in. AJ has some great information.
That's the big thing. It's okay to experiment, but when the crew tells you, you know, obviously they're gonna see that's gonna be a big tangle. That's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, you listen.
You listen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna waste time. You got to figure some of these tangles might take 20 minutes to take out.
Yeah,
so
I've seen it.
Time.
It's crazy.
Time is precious out there.
Especially when it's sunrise. And that when I was talking about the tangle before, it was literally the first drop, sunrise. This guy wiped out the whole back.
Exactly. So now
And that was, I mean, I was the only line in. Every drop I had a fish. If everybody else was in, I'm sure they would have too. It was,
you got to understand. Yeah. So people have to understand. We want you to go home with fish.
yeah.
And when we tell you, hey, that's not going to work on this trip, you have to listen to us.
Yeah.
It's cool to experiment, but if we see something you're experimenting with, it's going to turn into
That's
a
bad
problem.
news.
No, it's a good
Yeah.
point. That's true. Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you ask us. We're here to help you.
Yeah.
You
All
know,
they're trying to do is trying to help you catch more fish.
That's all
Yeah.
we want to do.
There's no
Yeah.
reason.
Well,
If there's anybody in the world that wants to catch these things, it's us
It's
right
the crew.
here. We're not out there to just go out there just to go roam around the ocean. No, I want to catch these things too.
Nice long boat ride.
I want to
yeah,
see these
fuck
things
yeah.
on the deck
Yeah.
of my feet.
Yeah, you
We're-
look
we're
like a
putting the-
little
we're
kid
putting
in
the
that
work.
picture holding those two
Oh,
giants.
yeah,
That
dude.
smile on your face.
You know,
Look at you.
he's up there, trying to, we're out there, planning out our routes. And, the night before, we were talking about this days before the
love
trip.
it.
We're calling each other up.
just nerding out on it.
Yeah, and
you gotta love
oh, I got this over here. We're gonna go this direction. He's telling me, I got a plan. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go here. If this don't work, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this next. So it's a lot of time prep, and we want these things just as bad as you. We want to show you a good time. It's I tell you, I can't express it enough. It's something that came back to Sheepshead Bay, and it's in Brooklyn, and it's got it. I want more people to see this.
I gotta do it. You said the
A
next
guy
trip's
who-
in June, or is there one before that?
June 11th.
June 11th.
It's doing this since I was in diapers, and the excitement that I have over it. I mean, I'm lucky I get up to go fishing half the time, and for anything anymore. But this,
You feel a little like jaded from it all?
it's
How
not,
many striped bass can you catch?
honestly, I'm a wreck fisherman. If I got to say anything,
How many
he'll
sea
tell you.
bass can you catch?
I'll be sitting up on the Dodge all day. He tells me we're going to go over a piece of bottom or a wreck. I'm down there with a rod in my hands right away.
So you're still into it
Absolutely.
every time.
Wreck fishing, I'll take that over anything because you put a line down the bottom, you
never
never
know.
know what you're going to get.
You never know.
And that's the same thing about this tile fishing. It's exploratory. It's something new. And you don't know what you could get a fish up to 60 pounds. It's huge, and they fight like hell.
I think I could use I could
Oh,
use
my
my
goodness.
Avid reel for this. I have to get it fixed.
If you got the
I
right,
haven't been. I mean, what is deep dropping qualified? 200 feet or more? What is it?
I guess
300 feet.
There's no real definition for it. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
300 or 400 feet. You could. I mean, we catch Goldens in 350,
Yeah.
so technically 300 feet, I guess, would be deep dropping.
Yeah.
So generally my best spots that I have in the Hudson Canyon range between 4 to like 600 feet, and I have a couple spots that hold some fish in like 750 to 850.
Whoa.
That's just a couple of spots. Most of my fishing, like most of my meat fishing, is going to be between 4 and 550. And then if I want to try to look for some bigger fish, I'll go to 750, 800, try to catch a couple of big boys.
So
you
the
know.
deeper the water, the bigger the fish, you think? A lot of times?
Yeah, generally, especially in the Hudson.
So how deep do you think these things live to?
To
Oh.
get up to 1,500 feet.
1,500 feet?
Scientifically speaking, I mean, rod and reel,
probably.
but that's
Like I know the Viking, they
crazy.
the Viking, they fished up to 1,200 foot already. The Voyager, they fished up to like 1,100, 1,200 foot
Have
already.
you ever seen anybody just like run out of line on a drop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
one of our buddies we did like a crew trip, and we were doing a drift. I don't even know why we did it, and he was like, "I want to drop down."
That
And
was
Paul's
that was like the tuna trip that
yeah,
ended up
and
being
he's
a
just
tile
like,
trip.
"I want to drop down. I want to drop down." And I was like, "All right, fine. It's about 1,000 feet here." And
Whoa.
he's on his way down, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh no!" I turned around.
Spooled?
Oh yeah, all the lines gone.
Oh my
I
God.
feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but if you got 500 yards, I feel like that's a good minimum.
Yeah. That's what you want. That'll get you down to over 1,000 foot with
So-
the belly.
What do you think?
And
500
plus you're
pounds,
using
20
a
pound, or
monoliter.
500 yards, 20 pound braid?
No,
Is that a good
with
starting point?
Bait fishing, you're using like 50, 65.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's
But you're using 15-pound braid?
You got to think of the mechanics of the line, because yes, I'm using.
That's
15.
got more of a bounce?
The rod's a lot lighter, and
Okay.
we're also not just straight holding 2, 3, 4 pounds of lead.
Yeah.
Plus, line is rated to standing strength, which is basically nothing pulling on, jerking on it fast. You know, with jigging, it's all pretty gradual motions. Even when you're hooking the fish, you're never like snapping it, and you know it's never fast. You know, sometimes with the sinker, things happen, or bait fishing, or you know, even just putting it over the side. You know, you need to use a little bit heavier braid with that because there's more snapping tension.
I will say, if you could get a reel, look at your gearing. You know, bigger gearing will you know alleviate the you know for you to reel the strength that you have to use, and if you could get something that's narrow with a high diameter, that the diameter of the spool as you reel will retrieve more line on top of your ratio too. It gives you leverage. So, you know, anything like, look at the line capacity. If you got big gearing, so you can't go out there with like an MX.
Okay.
If you go out, like you talk about Avets, so like an MXJ, something like that, maybe it'll hold the line, but the gearing's just not big enough. You want something, I guess, in a 4.0
What does that mean? What do you mean?
You want a low gear ratio reel, basically. 2 speeds, kind of, they're okay. A 2-speed reel, sometimes high speed is too fast and you kill yourself. You know, the low speed is too slow and the fish could actually float up and beat it and you'll lose your fish.
You got to think about
I think it just
similar to like maybe like a bicycle or a car.
Okay.
If you're going uphill, you're putting your car or your bicycle into a low gear because you want to have that gearing in order to climb. You can't put it into a high gear. It's the same thing with a reel. You know, you want
that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, it just makes it a little bit easier for you. And as far as gearing, like I said, anything.
So it
like
gets pretty technical. The whole
well,
thing really does. I mean,
it's not as bad as you think.
No, it's not bad. I think it's cool. Like
This
the
is
more
all we do.
aspects of
This is all we do.
the sport that you can kind of nerd out on. And
yeah,
I don't know. I don't have a better term for it, but like I do
cool,
this.
bro.
I do it in whatever type of fishing I'm into at the moment. I'll try to know every single thing about it. You know.
So like what we're saying is our recommendations to make you more comfortable with the fishery.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you could listen to us. Yeah, you could catch a tilefish on a beer can with a line on it if you want. If you want to, you know, hand line a tilefish in 600 foot of water.
Break out the Cuban yo-yo and do it old school.
Exactly. You know, it's
9-inch sidewinder.
Cuban yo-yo, we gotta delete that shit. So
No, that's a real term.
Is that a real?
No, it's a
Oh
real.
yeah, no, it's actually
like
no, it's an actual real like that's
fucking
no, that's not nothing. That's nothing bad. I wouldn't have said that. A Cuban yo-yo is actually what they used to do down south.
Oh no, it's a real thing. Guys used to come out bluefish. Dude, this isn't it's not a joke. You go on eBay right now and find
people
them.
are so sensitive nowadays.
Oh no.
I just I'm trying not to piss anybody off.
It's a hand line.
Piss enough people
that you
off
put,
as it is.
It's a hand line that you put around your wrist. Guys used to come bluefishing with it.
No, I've seen it now. Now
You
that
see
you
it
put
down
a term
south in
to
Florida. That's just
I've seen
the
a couple
actual.
guys fluking that way.
Yeah, that's
out
the
of the
real.
bay with that.
You know, that's the real name for it.
The whole thing with it.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
No, that's legit.
Yeah.
It's not a
No, I've seen it. Yeah.
No.
Another thing with the tackle. Getting
That
back to
takes finesse, I'm sure, in itself. It's
Oh,
a whole thing in itself.
Guys were experts in that.
Yeah.
Using it.
Yeah, a big reel handle is huge.
I wonder if anyone could do that.
Oh, you can.
For tilefish.
You can.
You go viral, bro.
you-
40-pounder on a hand
My
line.
buddy's dying to break out. My buddy's, he wants to bring a sidewinder so bad. He's looking at all
Really?
of them,
Oh,
figuring
that's
out.
you have a sidewinder. I've
No,
seen
this
you
is-
say,
I got tons
right?
of them.
Yeah, you love
Yeah.
those.
I do have a big one I could put braid on. I
What's
do have a
the-
9-inch that I could put.
He's got a
You
9-inch
just have to make sure
sidewinder.
you tell him half an hour before we leave.
do.
All right, Keith.
Now you give me
reel up.
ideas.
Guys, we got half an hour.
He's got a 9-inch sidewinder, a Cuban yo-yo.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, Paulie actually brought a reel, and it's fairly affordable. No.
yeah.
The Ocean
Yeah,
Max.
yeah. Let's hear some affordable stuff. That, like, if you're trying to just maybe try this out, you got a little bread.
So, what I like to use the Ocean Max. They come in a few different sizes. You could use either the 10 or the 11 for tile fishing, and they're about $400 to $420 a piece. The gear ratio is 4.5 to 1, perfect gear ratio. They have a big power handle, so it's nice and comfortable. I actually just, I do have a couple of custom rods that I bought from friends or for people that build. I did end up finding a rod that could be, a store rod. It's $200. It's a Daiwa Protus rod. It's 8 foot. I could read the size there. It's on the rod. I think it's like 80 XHF. I think that's what the rod is. I was using it on 2 trips ago. It held 2-3 pounds. It's, weight fine. It's light, and it's very affordable.
Feel the bite.
Feel the bite.
Yep.
Everything.
You'll feel them.
I was lifting.
They're pretty aggressive, right? They're gonna smack this thing.
Oh, they'll.
There's no little taps.
Are they kind of hooking themselves in a way too? Because you said you're not really setting the hook.
Well, no,
that
you are.
much.
With bait, you have to set the hook. So you could
They'll
use
nib at it a little bit. You think they'll pop at
when
it?
you're jigging, it's either you hook them or you don't.
Yeah.
That's it. They're aggressive. When you're bait fishing, though, it's a little different.
So it's a preference. You could either use J hooks or circle hooks while bait fishing. Me personally, I like to use J hooks. I can't hook them on circle hooks. That's me. So with circle hooks,
That's interesting.
as you know, you just lift slow and you hook him in the corner of the mouth.
Yeah, it does the work for you, kind of.
Me, I like swinging for the. I like swinging for the hills. I like that. You
Full
you swing.
sends only.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
rod's just there bending, and you feel the fish on.
Yep.
That's what I like to do. So, which circle hooks work better with electric reels because now, it's like you were saying earlier, you had surgery done on your shoulders and your.
I probably should, not yet though, but I have 3 herniated discs in my left shoulder, and my right shoulder's hurting too. I don't even know what that is. I did get it sucks. Yeah, I don't think I could do
totally
like 8 hours of it anymore.
So
And the deepest I've done is 200. I'm doing like 600 feet all day, 300, 600 feet. That's a lot. I might do the electric.
yeah, so if you do the electric with the circle hook, use the reel to hook the fish for you, and now you don't even have to swing.
You just hit that button.
You just hit the button,
Boom.
hooks. Like I don't use
I
electric.
love it.
So like the circle hook does not work for me personally at all, but for you it'll work great. You just hit the button. You don't have to swing 2 or 3 pounds of lead, and then hurt your shoulder and then worry about getting the fish. You just hit that button and the fish is on. That's
I
it.
love it.
Well,
Drop
you do
back down, do
so
it again.
with the electric reel, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost hard.
You got to finesse it a little bit.
I don't
There's
like
a
to
bit of
say
a
it's
learning
harder.
curve to
I don't
it.
like
No?
to say it's harder because it's not. But you do have to pay attention because when you first hook them, you're gonna go full blast. It's a variable speed reel. You fast, slow.
Yeah.
You have options, and you have to drag. It's like a normal reel. You even have a handle too if you want to use that. But
Yeah, I mean, you could
when
set
you're-
the hook and reel it, right? And then hit the button.
So if you're using circle hooks and you're going to set it with the electric reel, you're just going to use the power. You're going to go full blast to get the hook set.
hit that button.
And then once
full,
it's hooked,
full send. You get
Full
that. You get
sends
that
only.
bite, and you wanna hook that fish. You go full send. Once you feel that fish on there, you're for sure you got him. You back down on that, so you don't want to rip the hook out of the mouth.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you kind of feel the money. You
Set it maybe 2 or 3 times.
well,
bury
no.
it, like-
You once it's set, it's set. It's
That's
in.
it. It's
and
in,
then what
ease
you
off
do,
a little bit, and
you ease off, and then you just find the happy spot. If you start digging
Yep.
and going crazy, you come back on it a little bit. But you never ever want to reel in full blast a fish on full blast like
You're not
that.
trying
You'll
to
just
horse
lose
that
them.
thing off the
Well,
reef. You'll just rip it out of its mouth.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
You got to think of all the pressure on that fish. You'll just pull the hook right out. You always at decent speed. You don't have to crawl. You don't have to have it crawling.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys, you see them just full blast and not even look at it, and then they're like, "Oh, what happened to the fish?"
They go and light a cigarette
exactly.
up. They're just looking around.
And you got to make sure you kind of pay attention a little bit with it's okay if you have a big fish, the reel's going to stop. It's going to make weird sounds. You're going to be like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" That's normal.
Because it can only take so much, right?
I mean, they're not. They don't have. They don't have a lot of power. Power.
It's not like a crane. It's a
the
fishing rod.
Tanacom
So
the 750s we use, they're great reels. They're very affordable.
yeah.
I've put mine through the ringer and back, and it's still fine for quite a few years now. But they don't have. I've seen them reel in 80-pound Warsaw grouper.
Yeah.
They could do it, but it just takes time.
You ever see any of these guys electrocute themselves?
No, I never.
Not yet.
have.
A lot of electricity involved here.
Not yet. Yeah.
I've seen some questionable things
You
when I
better
was
get
working.
some waivers put together.
When I was
Cap.
working down south, I saw some guy. When I saw him pulling the battery out of his car, I was like, "Oh my god!" And then you just look all over the boat, and he just had I don't know. I really couldn't even explain
full car
exactly.
battery there.
he just pulled his battery out of his car. I was
And
like, wow,
it
this
was kind of rigged up
and
a
he
little
just had
sketchy.
so they used to make these old reels called electromates, and it was basically a Penn Senator that just strapped, they designed a big motor that went on it, and it was just big and clunky, and I mean it was just
That sounds
balls to
massive.
the
A
wall
Penn
and-
Senator with a top on top, like the thing on top.
So
of
he
it.
had that, and he like did his own wiring, and it was just I don't even know. He was tripping over himself half the time, and I was just looking. I'm like, I'm working deck watching this guy. Like, I don't even think I can rinse the. I don't even think I can rinse the boat off because
He's
I'm pretty
trying to
sure
get
this guy's gonna electrocute
This guy's a
himself or me.
hazard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, he was a hazard to himself, but
That electricity though with water and shit could
yeah,
spread
you'd
really
be
quick,
when
so.
you'd be surprised. A lot of guys soak their stuff. They leave their stuff out when
And
we're riding.
no company's making like a custom waterproof battery.
So
to
they have
charge your-
expensive. They have
It's gotta
pretty
be
expensive, like little battery packs.
Do they
that
even
they
last that
make.
long? I mean,
I don't use them.
what does Captain Nick Stanzik use, bro?
Oh, he has plug. Oh, come on, dude. He has plugs in the boat that he just goes right under the rail, and that's it. Or he actually
it?
on the LPs or the crystals, whatever he uses, he has a plug right into the side of the
You
boat.
get some big swordfish. You guys think
dude.
you could ever stick a swordfish out there? Like they
Well, we
cruise
were
down there,
actually
right?
Well,
You're gonna try to go?
so the day drop
Sword trip, dude.
Oh, we're gonna do this just overnight between the Tilefish
That
drops.
sounds awesome. Now
yeah.
we're talking.
So we were planning on it on the last trip. Unfortunately, we had to turn around early due to unforeseen circumstances. I'm not going to talk about that on the show here, but
Things happen.
that was our plan. We had some chum. We were gonna go sword fishing at night, which
We had the harpoon and everything.
So
I got
this-
it rigged up.
Ready to stick them?
the swordfish at
Old
night.
school like iron harpoon. Yeah.
Dude,
I threw my first one last year.
my boss.
I destroyed this white bucket. Yeah, ask Kyle on the rockfish. My first throw destroyed the bucket.
Oh, Kyle, he's
Yeah.
my boy.
I'm ready to destroy some fish. I said, Kyle, if I hit this bucket on my first throw, if we go out for we went out for threshers that day. If we go out again, I get to dart something. I want to dart some shit.
My boss that I work for, and
I love gaffing shit. I love darting shit.
Dude, he.
That's
I was
the
there.
best part.
It is.
It's fun, man.
I'm the final blow. I killed that thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Not
saying.
you, me.
I love it. I love sticking them. There's a
Yeah.
whole art form to gaffing. There's got to be an art form to throwing the
Absolutely.
dart.
Oh, I asked my boss how he made. I knew he made one, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Just take it." I didn't realize this was a party boat one. It's never been used, but dude, this thing was like probably 12, 15 feet.
Yeah,
Dude, this
no,
thing
we
was
were-
like
we were
at
ready.
least This was a heavy gaff. This was
Something
made.
was gonna die.
It was gonna. It might have gone through the entire fish if we weren't too careful. But we had the dart, we had the ball, and everything ready.
Yeah.
And
What
things
if you
happen,
saw a Mako free swimming by the boat? Would you gaff it like they did on the
so we do.
Jamaica?
but if it was,
do it.
You saw that one they
if
got
it
on
was-
Free
Jamaica?
gift Makos?
if it would have been all set, we
couple
probably
of
would
The
have
guy
the dart
from
set up.
Lake Opakon got like a 546-pound Mako, like sea bass fishing like 2 winters ago. You remember that?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
would've-
The thing
we would've-
broke like 5 gaffs.
Oh,
we would
yeah.
have definitely caught one that night.
Unbelievable.
There was that many. There was that many of them.
Yeah,
out
we
there.
don't. We see that all the time, and I
Yeah.
just laugh because like
They come by the boat. You
Yeah.
never know what you'll see.
I work
by
on another
by the
boat, and like I
out
just
there,
see it
right?
all the time, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I think a dogfish ate my sea bass," and I'm like, "That was not a dogfish." And then every once in a while, a customer will hook it. You'll just see the line go straight out, jump, and you're like, "Ah."
Have you seen any big sharks out there, like cruising the surface?
On the last trip, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we definitely seen a Mako. I would estimate it around 300 pounds.
Wow.
It was jumping, it jumped a few times.
Just free jumping.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Now,
Feeding on bluefish, you think? You were saying? I mean,
Yeah, that spot that we were fishing, we actually ended up getting blued out.
Blued out.
Yeah, the bluefish came in thick,
You
and
got blued out, bro.
that Mako came in right behind him, jumped a few times, and then the bluefish bite stopped. So he definitely spooked him.
I think it spooked the tiles too.
Oh.
I was pretty happy because the bluefish like destroying my slow pitch tackle.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing action, right? Action's action.
I want to say if people really if they want to, again, going back to the cheap, because I'm trying to really focus on everybody from people who have money. If you don't have money and you want to try to find, and you want to go fishing, if you can't afford a $500 to $600 setup and you really want to try something, you can go and buy like a Penn 6.0 with an aluminum spool on there, which is fairly light, and it'll be half the price. and you could go out there with braid, and it has enough gearing, and you can get yourself, like, again, a sturdy rod if you want to just try something, or if maybe you have something. You put the aluminum stuff on there, the reel becomes a lot lighter. But the main thing is it has the big gearing, and you can fish with it. So, again, a cheaper option, you can get away with something like that.
We'll also go with the Saltist P, the lower gear ratioed Saltists, the big ones, 40. You could use that offshore sea bass fishing too. And, they have nice foam handles now. And like what I was saying before, the handles, they make a world of difference.
Love your foam, bro. You love it.
Huh?
Your foam,
dude, the foam it's so, you gotta, you gotta think about reeling up all that water.
Yeah, no, you want to be comfortable.
I
right?
I remember when I first did it for the first time, I was in 850 feet of water barrel fishing in Key West, and I have this plastic handle that I brought with the reel, and I'm like,
blisters,
I had blisters
pain.
all over my hand.
Yeah.
I mean, my hand's a tough working deck, but like it was
That must have been something.
And then
else,
I just got one of the T-bar handles, a nice big power handle. It world of difference.
Game changer.
Oh my God! You also move the reel. You know how everyone looks at it and they never change it to make the handle or the arm actually longer on their reel, between the reel and the handle.
Yeah.
If you switch that to the inside one, so the actual arm on your reel is a little bit longer, you get more like, it's more like a winch, you get more
line on every turn, right? I mean,
just more leverage,
power,
more leverage. You got a giant handle. Now you got the arm that's even bigger instead of like, reeling close, you got more room to move, and, you could kind of crank them in a little bit better. Those Ocean Max reels Paul has, like, they're like winches.
What do you think what do you think they go for, AJ?
What, the Saltist?
Yeah.
They're like $250.
Oh, there you go, $250.
That's not bad at all.
So,
No, and another thing talking about
that's
this,
a lot of line though. Sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
Cap. How much does that line cost? Let's like really break it down.
What do you mean?
Like you're putting
spool
500 yards of line on
60,
there?
you could buy a spool 60.
It depends on what you're
Oh,
doing.
okay.
I mean, they have, there's expensive line. Like I use a
I
lot
mean,
of the Yozuri
if you're
braid, and
trying
like,
it out,
it's anywhere from $60 to $100.
Oh, whatever. Okay.
Usually, I fill my reels up with braid now, just because in case you happen.
Does anybody fish all mono for these things, or is it mainly braid?
Not that
I
I've
seen one guy do it,
Yeah.
and I was shocked that it actually worked. You got to understand, you got to try to feel the bite, you know, which braid helps out with that too.
There's a lot more like bounced with that mono, using all that mono. It's like,
the deeper you fish, you got to understand too, the more belly comes out, so you're not straight up and down where
that's
the
what I
line.
was trying to say.
Yeah. So now with mono, instead of having like say 50, 60 foot of belly like you would with braid, now you have like 150 foot extra. So in 500 foot, you have like 650 foot of line out.
And you have all the stretch. You're not only battling that, you're trying to set the hook with, that lead.
Just be whiffing
and then,
at 'em.
yeah, you move your rod 8 feet, and then the hook moves like 6 inches, and you don't do anything.
That would be really frustrating.
Yeah.
I just, everybody that comes on the show, I kind of like, there's a couple things I like always ask. Like, one, do you have any superstitions? Because I'm always looking for a constant superstition, whether it be good or bad. Like, you believe in the banana thing?
3 of my dad's boats were named No Bananas, so
Really?
He does.
that's kind of like a.
What do you think of that? It's one of our new pins.
Oh yeah, I mean that right there. That's the one everywhere.
Yo, Keith, do you mind grabbing me a beverage?
Yeah. Oh, you want this one?
Yeah, if you don't open it. Yeah. I got you guys these brews. I never donate brews to the studio.
Well, I gotta
Just rob the studio.
I gotta be up at.
Whenever we come in
I gotta
here.
be up at 2:30 tomorrow. I'm
What
going
are you
to Montauk
doing?
cod fishing,
You're a psycho.
Well, here's
Yes.
You have deep-seated issues.
dude.
No pun intended.
My
Deep
girlfriend
sea.
wonders every single day. She's
What
like,
is
"How?
wrong with this kid?
This is all I do. I don't watch sports. I don't play sports.
They're
I don't.
boring after a while. After you get out and see some real shit.
I mean, I like
fishing is like
pushing
the best
limits
addiction you could have.
Best one
Yeah.
you could have.
because you don't have any money to spend it on drugs or alcohol.
Yeah, allegedly.
Supposedly.
Just real quick, just one thing I do want to mention about the tackle and how, like I said earlier, most people don't, they look at tile fishing, see how it is, and they say, oh, that's not for me. But if they do want to try it, the tackle they buy isn't going to go to waste. They could use you could use a Tilefish rod for jigging tuna. You know,
Offshore sea bass.
offshore sea bass.
That's
fishing.
another thing I was
Cod
asked.
fishing.
Yeah, can you if you invest in a skier,
Absolutely.
it can translate to other factions of
Yeah,
the sport.
if you
Like,
want
it's
to,
not
if you want to try haddock fishing up north or
cod
pollock
fishing off Montauk, whatever you want to do.
it can transfer over, so
That's
it's not
awesome.
going to be a waste of an investment.
It's not just one setup. It's
Yeah.
gonna
And like I
only
said,
be used for tile fishing.
tile fishing isn't for everyone, but most people right off the bat, me and Keith both did it. Oh, it's not going to be for me. 600 feet, that's got to be boring. I did it. I love it. Well, my favorite fishing.
So if you like bottom fishing, right? This is gonna be killer.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I got to do it. I got to do it. I'm
yeah.
gonna try to get out on that next trip.
And if you're new to it, tell us.
Yeah,
we
I'm gonna
want to help
be-
you. You know,
Yeah.
anybody who wants
I
to
think I'm
do
gonna
it.
get one of these electric reels and just do it
Yeah.
because now that everything's coming back from the pandemic, I'm gonna get back into just like sea bass fishing, bottom fishing in general, and yeah, I think I'm finally gonna be one of those dudes with an electric reel. I think
And
it's
we
gonna
love
happen.
to anybody who's in the club. You know, come on, man. You know, try it out. It's a Brooklyn thing. It's Sheepshead Bay. It's cool, man.
And the boat's leaving on a Friday night, and it's come back on a Sunday,
The
right?
next one-
Sunday morning. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So we're leaving what is it, 7 or is it 11 on Friday?
So 7 p.m. Friday night.
Yep.
Usually boarding is around 6. Ice is included, so bring a fish cooler, bring a food cooler. We load them up with ice.
Okay. Cool.
We bring extra ice on the boat just in case someone, we do promote trolling. We tell people, hey, if you want to troll, you could bring a trolling rod.
on the way out and stuff.
Well, yeah, you could troll in between drifts or,
Okay.
as the sun is coming up.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody troll off a party boat before. I've heard about it. I've never seen it.
I mean, we could probably do like an 8 or a 9 rod spread.
That's pretty good.
Not everyone.
Controlled.
Yeah,
Controlled, yeah. No, that's a nice spread.
You
8
kinda have
and
to
9 rod
organize it.
spread. I mean, yeah,
Last year we had a bunch of bluefin in the Hudson that we were able to get,
nice.
and we, it's cool. My rule is if it takes a lot of time, like if it's a big tuna and we waste 45 minutes to an hour, whoever caught it gets half the fish, the other half gets split up between the boat.
That's a good
So
rule.
everyone, it's a tile trip. Everyone gets a piece of tuna. When we go back to tile fishing, everyone
Yeah.
gets the tile.
That's
And
fun,
it works
man.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah. So and
I want to do this now, man.
It's a
I
good
really
option.
do.
It's a good option in the city.
I told you that date kind of doesn't work for me, but I'm gonna make it work. I'm
Hey,
gonna come out on that trip.
I mean, I would love to have you, man. It's
We have something in the works right now we might be doing. We might try to set up a special jigging charter with Paul.
Yeah.
And,
Jigging only.
jigging.
Awesome.
probably not jigging only, but it's definitely going to be, a lot of guys.
Can you
trying to
get
do
them on
jigging.
diamond jigs? I've got
Yeah.
some big ass heavy diamond
That's where
jigs.
it first started.
So yeah.
Oh,
So I
really?
was going to
Okay.
mention this earlier when I worked for Jeff on the Voyager. They just started playing around with jigs for these things. And back then, you know how normally you go on party boats and you go jigging blue fishing or bass, they tell you don't put bait on the jigs.
Yeah.
Well, for tilefish, they started jigging with like 12-ounce diamond jigs like you would for cod.
Yep.
You had to put a strip bait on, whether it was a mackerel strip, a bluefish strip, something at the end of it.
Something with scent.
Something with scent on
Yeah.
that and the teaser, and you used to whip it out and you jig, you catch them. Now, Jeff's theory was that between the smell and the vibration of the jig, that's what attracted the tilefish. You got to, the jig is fluttering, you got the smell, so they feel a little vibration in the water. They're
Get a
around,
whiff.
They get a whiff, and they
Yeah.
come over, check it out.
Yeah.
So now with the slow pitch jigs, I noticed you don't have to use any bait, and they catch them.
Really?
It's just, it's
Because they're
it's
slow
all
pitch.
just,
They're just
well,
kinda,
it's a
you
lot
think
of
there's
action.
more action in those jigs,
Oh, they're
Yeah.
designed.
right? I mean, the diamond jig is
That's
going
gotta
to
be it.
drop.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much designing that goes into it, and especially like the rods are designed to put the jig in even better flutter motion than just going straight up and down. I mean, I could talk to you about for 4 hours about slow pitch
But
jigging and every theory.
if
about
you guys
it.
a charter, you come on the charter, and we got a whole trip. That'll all be. Let
me know.
with all the jigs, and
Yeah.
AJ will be
We're
there.
definitely gonna be
showing you.
trying to set some stuff up, and
You want to get that 40-pounder on the jig, don't you?
You have no idea.
Yeah.
And he wants to get it done on the Captain Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole jigging thing, I've just been trying to push the limits more and more with it, and I'm the only, there's only a handful of guys up here that actually
That's
do
all
it.
I do for porgies. Like I throw a little
Well,
007 diamond jig.
They have
Everybody else in the Ocean Eagle or whatever will fish with bait, and I'll catch the biggest
they have
fish and
micro
the
jigging
hardest
too with
fighting
this.
fish. Like
They have slow pitch jigs for everything. They do micro
I
jigging.
love it.
They have little 80-gram jigs that
are.
are tiny, and they do it all over the world.
But here's the thing. So if you want to look, we got to look up the regulations and records. But I guarantee you, there's not many tilefish caught on 15-pound test. That could be a record.
Yeah.
That could definitely be a record.
We could break
I'm
some
sure
line
there's-
records with this stuff.
break some line records out here.
And he got down the block. You got Flounder in Stella's. He could hook you up with rods and.
Yeah, true. And just to clarify, if you leave from a port, is that where, like, wherever you catch the fish, like, say you caught a tilefish in Jersey waters,
But you come back
but
to
you
New
come
York.
back to New York and you left from New York, is that a New York State record?
That would be a New York State record, yep.
Okay, that's good to know.
Definitely got to look them up for the next trip.
Yeah.
If these fish were caught, some of these blue lines were caught on manual reels on the last trip, definitely would have been New York State records without a
I
doubt.
think
We would have
should
had
probably
a few.
do that and just almost say no electrics.
They do, like the other tilefish boats. They do that. They say manual
why not?
reels only.
Why not? I mean,
Big
most
fish
of
for
the
that.
guys-
Says New York State record, Mark Kaminsky from Plainview, New York, 63 pounds, 8 ounces.
That's a golden. Yep.
You guys could break that.
Oh, slowly but surely.
Pollock, 45 pounds.
What do they got for a blue line?
I don't know. Let me see.
Unfortunately, I think the line class records are only with the IGFA. New York State's just by weight, but we could go.
I don't
for
think
those
they
two.
have a blue line. They only have golden tilefish.
Well, the next
Yeah, no, they don't.
next record blue line will be caught on the Captain Dave. I gotta show you that.
117 pound wahoo. What year was that? They don't even tell you.
We'll definitely be.
Is this reliable?
We'll definitely be trying to.
Who knows? It's New York.
break some
Hold on.
records.
That was New York. That was fishingnortheast.net. That doesn't sound too official.
So bring your manuals.
Hold on.
No,
Blue
try to
tilefish?
Blue line.
Blue line.
Or gray.
No, they got blackfish, black sea bass, bluefish. Then it goes to dolphin and then golden tilefish, 63 and a half
We're gonna have
pounds.
to,
Mark Kaminsky.
We're gonna have to start off somewhere, and
Mark Kaminsky, where you at, man? What's that one? Blue marlin, 1,100 pounds, 1,200 pounds. That's wild. What's
They
the
have they have a
craziest
barrel
shit you ever seen out there?
Um,
You ever been in any sketchy situations?
I mean, I'm sure I have, and I just overlooked it. It's just, so
Plowed through.
Yeah, so many things that phase me now.
But I want to get out there. I want to catch some of these golden tilefish. I want to get the right setup.
Yeah.
And when I listen back to this, I'm gonna know what to get. There's a lot of info in here.
Oh,
this is one of the most technical talks we've ever had on this show. Like, this is a lot of information.
Obviously, we could keep going.
we just scratched the surface. You called
At
me.
some points, my head was spinning. I was like, "Whoa!"
There's so many
It's a lot
questions.
of-
But and even if you wanted to do again with the club, get in a group, we'd be more than happy
yeah,
to
we'll
try
see
to
who's down. It's a hardcore trip. You gotta admit,
put together
it's,
to make sure that
It's a lot easier
people
than you
get
think.
Here and
I feel you. It's a lot easier than you think. But some people who haven't done an overnighter,
No, I mean it's different.
It could
It's
be a
camping.
lot. But hey,
It
you
is a
just
lot,
gotta be
but it is
open and
easy.
a new experience and
It's-
having some fun. And you could
it's
be
not
the
bad.
person that catches the 40, 60 pound
never know.
fish, whatever. You never know what you get out there. So
That's the cool part.
you guys coming out of Sheepshead Bay, check out Captain Dave. Keith, thank you for lining this
man.
up.
Absolutely.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you for everybody for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of the BFC podcast.